In the iconic setting of Las Vegas, a significant chapter unfolded in the long-standing boxing rivalry between Mexico and Puerto Rico. This time, it was Canelo Alvarez, representing Mexico, squaring off against Edgar Berlanga, the rising Puerto Rican star. The anticipation was palpable, as fans from both nations gathered to witness another classic bout in one of the most intense sporting rivalries in history. The outcome was clear: Canelo Alvarez retained his title, but the fight was about more than just the result. It was a showcase of grit, heart, and the undeniable legacy that both fighters continue to build. After the fight, Berlanga, visibly disappointed, spoke to the press. "I'm the king now," he said, still exuding confidence despite the loss. "We came up short, but I'm a winner at the end of the day. I fought a legend tonight, and I take my hat off to Canelo. He's a legend." Berlanga's words echoed the sentiments of many who saw him step into the ring with one of the greatest fighters of this generation. Despite his loss, Berlanga's stock rose significantly. His resilience and ability to absorb Canelo's powerful shots earned him respect. One of the most remarkable aspects of the fight was Berlanga's chin. He took several of Canelo's most dangerous punches, including a left hook in the third round that resulted in a knockdown. But as Eddie Hearn, who promoted the fight, pointed out, the knockdown didn't seem to faze Berlanga. "It was kind of like a flash knockdown," Hearn said, "but he was never really hurt. Even when he got dropped, he came back and was firing back, and people loved it." For Berlanga, the fight was an opportunity to compete at a level he had never reached before. Fighting against Canelo Alvarez, a man who has dominated the sport for over a decade, was no small task. But despite being outmatched, Berlanga proved that he could hold his own. "We knew he was stepping up to a new level," Hearn continued, "and you always wonder, are you good enough to compete?" He was well beaten, but he was competitive. He took some huge shots from Canelo and kept coming back. The fans, too, were impressed by Berlanga's heart. After being knocked down in the third round, Berlanga didn't shy away from the fight. Instead, he pressed forward, even landing a few shots of his own that had Canelo momentarily on the defensive. "People like that," Hearn added, referring to Berlanga's refusal to back down. "He got hit with the kitchen sink, but he kept coming. That's what makes fans respect you." Despite Canelo's dominance throughout most of the fight, he was unable to secure a knockout, which frustrated him. Alvarez, a fighter known for his devastating power, had stopped many of his previous opponents. Canelo wanted the stoppage bad, Hearn noted. He hit Berlanga with everything he had, but Berlanga was smiling through it all. He was tough as nails. For Canelo, the inability to finish the fight early was a rare disappointment. However, his performance left no doubt about who was the better fighter that night. Alvarez scored a unanimous decision, successfully defending his multiple world titles. His experience, ring intelligence, and precise punching were on full display, ensuring that even though Berlanga showed incredible toughness, there was never a doubt about the outcome. One of the more intriguing moments of the fight occurred in the 9th and 10th rounds, when a headbutt led to a temporary break in the action. Both fighters were admonished by the referee for their rough tactics, but they continued to engage in a back-and-forth battle. Berlanga, capitalizing on a moment of confusion when the 10-second bell rang, landed his best punch of the night, a clean shot that caught Canelo off guard. It was one of the few moments where Berlanga truly seemed to get the better of the Mexican champion. Jim Lampley, the legendary boxing commentator, was impressed by Berlanga's performance, despite the obvious gap in skill between him and Canelo. "Berlanga showed a lot of heart," Lampley said. "He doesn't have the craft or experience that Canelo has, but he made it a fight. I expected Canelo to dominate every round if it went the distance, and he did. But Berlanga gave him something to think about." Lampley also commented on Berlanga's physical advantage, noting how much bigger the Puerto Rican fighter looked compared to Canelo when they entered the ring. "I was a little surprised to see how much bigger he is than Canelo," Lampley said. For a few seconds, I thought maybe I was wrong in writing off Berlanga's chances, but size alone isn't enough to beat someone like Canelo. Indeed, Berlanga's size and power weren't enough to trouble Canelo, who has faced and beaten fighters with similar attributes throughout his career. As Lampley pointed out, the one style that will never beat Canelo is a straightforward power puncher. You need more than just power to beat him. As the fight wore on, it became clear that Berlanga's strategy of relying on his power wasn't going to be enough. But despite being outboxed, Berlanga refused to give in, pushing himself to reach the final bell. He made it through on sheer determination, Lampley said. Strategically, they might have considered stopping the fight after the 9th or 10th round, given how far behind he was on the scorecards, but he wanted to finish the fight. Jeff Mayweather, a former trainer and analyst, echoed Lampley's sentiments, noting that Berlanga's approach was surprisingly cautious at the beginning of the fight. "I thought Berlanga was going to come out aggressive," Mayweather said, "but he was cautious early on, trying to feel Canelo out. It wasn't until later in the fight that he started taking more chances, but by then it was too late." Throughout the fight, there were moments of frustration for Berlanga. On more than one occasion, he resorted to rough tactics, including headbutts. After the fight, Canelo humorously acknowledged his irritation with the tactics, joking that his Mexican pride wouldn't allow him to back down from a fight like that. Gareth A. Davis, a well-known sports commentator, praised Berlanga's efforts and his ability to push Canelo. "He turned himself into a worthy opponent," Davis said. "He brought out the best in Canelo. But the best Canelo was always going to beat him." Davis pointed out that while Berlanga gave Canelo a tough fight, it was clear from the start that the Mexican champion was in control. "I expected Canelo to win by a landslide or a late stoppage," Davis said. "It was competitive, but Canelo was always one step ahead." In the 3rd round, when Berlanga landed his best punches of the fight, Canelo responded immediately with a crushing left hook that knocked Berlanga down. It was a turning point in the fight, as Canelo demonstrated his ability to shift the momentum with a single punch. For Berlanga, the knockdown was a harsh reminder of the difference in experience between him and Canelo, but he took it in stride, getting back up and continuing to fight. As Davis remarked, he got knocked down, but he showed incredible heart by getting back up and continuing to push forward. In the end, the judges' scorecards reflected the dominance of Canelo Alvarez. But despite the one-sided nature of the fight, Berlanga earned the respect of boxing fans and analysts alike. Canelo needed to have a terrible night, and Berlanga needed to have an amazing night for there to be any real chance of an upset, Davis said. But Berlanga did enough to prove that he belongs in the conversation with the best fighters at 168 pounds. After the fight, Canelo addressed the criticism he often faces for his choice of opponent.